If you take like a raw piece of dough, cover it in cheese, and just throw it into an oven that's running at 900 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right, an absolute inferno.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Basic logic says you should just end up with a hockey puck made of charcoal in about 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
I mean, it's a violent, hostile environment for food, and yet there is this specific culinary tradition where that exact level of intense, borderline dangerous heat is actually the secret to creating the lightest, most delicate crust imaginable.
It completely defies our everyday intuition about cooking, you know? We're so used to this idea that baking requires a gentle, controlled, really steady temperature.
Right, like baking a cake.
Exactly. But when you introduce extreme thermodynamics to incredibly simple ingredients, the rules of physics they change. You aren't really baking anymore. You're initiating a rapid cascade of biochemical reaction.
And that wild transformation is exactly what we are getting into today.
Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. We are super thrilled to have you here with us.
Always great to be here. So today, we are pointing our compass toward a fascinating case study out in Norco, California. We're looking at a local fixture called Wicked Pizza Pies.
Which is just a great case study for this.
It really is. But our mission for you today isn't just to read off what's on the menu. We are exploring how an ancient, highly volatile, physical process wood-fired cooking can completely transform a standard everyday meal into the literal fabric of a community.
Yeah, it goes way beyond the food.
Okay, let's unpack this, because what really grabs me right from the jump is how a city like Norco, which has this incredibly strong, tight-knit identity, has rallied so intensely around this specific style of food.
Well, to understand why a business becomes a true local staple rather than just another place to buy calories, we really have to look at the underlying mechanics of authenticity.
The mechanics of authenticity, I like that.
Right. So today, we're going to tear apart the actual thermodynamics of the high-heat wood-fired oven. We're also going to explore the biology of digestion.
Which is wild, by the way.
It really is. We'll get into why this specific method results in a surprisingly lighter physical experience for you. And finally, we'll look at the fascinating juxtaposition of how a business uses highly modern, hyper-transparent digital tools to validate an ancient physical craft.
So cool. Let's start right there at the physical foundation, though. We are bypassing the dining room entirely and walking straight back to the literal hut of the operation. The oven.
The belly of the beast.
Yeah. People in Norco are absolutely obsessed with the textural contrast of this specific pizza.
Because it's so unique.
Right. You get this crisp outer shell, but the inside of the crust is incredibly soft and airy.
Yeah.
And it's got this slight, smoky finish.
It's just key.
But here's my fundamental question. Why can't I just crank my standard electric home oven up to its maximum setting and get the same result?
I mean, heat is heat, right?
See, what's fascinating here is that heat is absolutely not just heat.
Really?
Yeah, it's about how the thermal energy is actually being transferred to the food. Think about your home oven.
A standard home oven. Right. When you turn that on, you are primarily dealing with convection and ambient heat. The air gets hot, and that hot air slowly cooks the food from the outside in.
Like a slow roast.
Exactly. It's a sluggish process.
Yeah.
But a traditional wood-fired dome oven, it's honestly a masterpiece of applied physics. It utilizes 3 completely different types of heat transfer simultaneously.
Wait, 3 at the same time?
Yep, all at once.
Okay, I know there is fire, so there's radiant heat, obviously. What are the other 2?
So first, you have conduction.
Okay.
The pizza is placed directly onto a scorching hot stone floor. That stone acts as a massive thermal battery. It violently drives heat directly into the bottom of the dough the exact millisecond it makes contact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's what creates that immediate crisp foundation.
Yeah.
So that's conduction.
Got it.
Second, you have the radiant heat, like you mentioned. The internal dome of the oven is shaped specifically to reflect the thermal energy from the fire directly down onto the top of the pizza.
Searing the toppings.
Exactly, searing the toppings and blistering the cheese. And then third, you have a rolling convection current.
A rolling convection current.
Yeah. The fire pulls in cold air from the front opening, heats it up, and rolls it over the curve of the dome, creating this constant vortex of hot air.
Okay, so a home oven is basically just like sitting in a warm room, whereas a wood-fired oven is a 3-dimensional thermal attack.
That is a great way to put it, yes.
But wait, how does that create the airy interior? I mean, if it's being attacked from all sides by 900 degrees, shouldn't it just dry out completely and turn into a giant cracker?
See, that is the paradox of high heat. Baking dough in a standard low-heat oven is almost like slowly letting the air out of a balloon.
Because it takes, what, 10 to 15 minutes?
Right, and during that time, the moisture slowly evaporates out of the entire dough structure.
Which leaves you with a denser, heavier crust.
Exactly. But dropping a high hydration dough into a 900-degree wood fire oven is like flash freezing a water droplet.
Oh, I see. You're instantly locking the exterior structure in place before the interior moisture even realizes what's happening.
You nailed it. The exterior dough is instantly seared into a rigid, crisp shell. But the water trapped inside that dough structure suddenly hits the boiling point and violently flashes into steam.
And it has nowhere to go.
Right. Because the outside is already sealed, that expanding steam gets trapped inside the dough, blowing up all those internal gluten pockets into big, beautiful, airy bubbles.
That is wild.
It's a process bakers call oven spring. The intense heat fundamentally dictates the physical reaction of the ingredients. You are locking in the moisture and the texture rather than slowly baking the life out of it.
That is incredible. And because it happens in just like 2 or 3 minutes, the cheese and the toppings don't have time to turn into rubber.
Exactly. They just melt and blister perfectly.
It's an instant transformation, which honestly leads us directly into another aspect of this deep dive that I really need you to explain, because it honestly caught me completely off guard. We're moving from the physics of the oven to how this environment interacts with our bodies.
Right, the digestion side of things.
Yeah. There is a strong claim here in our research that wood-fired pizza from a place like Wicked Pizza Pies is actually a lighter option.
Yes. The intersection of rapid cooking and raw ingredients creates a very compelling argument regarding processing versus preservation.
Okay, I am going to push back on this pretty hard.
Bring it on.
When I think of pizza, I do not think of the word light.
Fair enough.
I think of a heavy, dense brick sitting in my stomach. I think of, needing a nap on the couch immediately after eating 3 slices.
The classic pizza cona.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because cheese is still cheese, right? Carbs are still carbs. A 900-degree oven doesn't magically vaporize calories. Are we just confusing the word artisanal with healthy here to make ourselves feel better about eating pizza?
It is a very fair challenge, and you are right. We aren't talking about a kale salad here. Calories are calories. But the feeling of heaviness after eating commercial pizza isn't just about the sheer number of calories. It is heavily tied to how your body processes the artificial additives and just the sheer density of the food.
Okay.
The logic behind the lighter claim is rooted entirely in what happens, or rather, what doesn't happen, before the pizza even goes into the oven.
Okay, so it's about the ingredient supply chain.
Precisely. Let's look at typical fast food or commercially produced pizza.
The big delivery chains.
Yes. If you are a massive chain, your dough needs to be made in a central factory, frozen, shipped on a truck, thawed out, and then baked slowly on a conveyor belt.
That sounds exhausting for the dough.
It is. To make dough survive that crazy journey, it has to be heavily processed. Commercial dough is packed with dough conditioners, artificial preservatives, and stabilizer.
Wow.
Furthermore, because a slow baking conveyor belt oven doesn't get hot enough to naturally blister and brown the crust, commercial chains actually pump their dough full of added refined sugars.
Wait, really?
Yes, just to force a chemical browning reaction so it looks cooked.
Wow. So commercial pizza dough isn't just bread. It's an engineered delivery system designed to survive a supply chain.
Exactly. And your digestive system has to work overtime to break down all those complex artificial stabilizers, the excess sodium used for preservation, and those refined sugars.
Never thought about it like that.
Yeah, that metabolic marathon is what gives you that lethargic, heavy feeling. Now, contrast that with the wood-fired method at a place like Wicked Pizza Pies.
Where they make it fresh.
Right. The intense temperature of the oven does all the heavy lifting for the flavor and the browning through the Maillard reaction. You don't need to add sugar to force a crust to brown when you have a 900-degree fire.
So they can use incredibly simple dough, like just flour, water, yeast, and salt.
Yes. It is a philosophy of subtraction. Because they rely on the natural, brutal mechanics of the fire, they can remove the artificial chemical engineering.
That makes so much sense.
So the lighter aspect comes from the fact that your body is digesting simple, naturally fermented bread, high-quality dairy, and fresh tomatoes. You are processing actual, real food, not a science experiment.
Right.
The result is a meal that genuinely sits differently in the gut. It lets the natural flavors stand on their own without the biological tax of digesting heavy preservatives.
I love that phrase, the biological
It's
tax.
very real.
The high heat essentially acts as a spotlight. If your ingredients are heavily processed and cheap, a wood fire is probably going to expose them, right? They'll just burn and taste bitter.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you have high-quality, fresh ingredients, the heat elevates them instantly. The fire is the flavor enhancer, not some chemical additive.
Which is exactly why executing this style of food is so difficult to scale and why it holds so much inherent value for a local community.
Which brings us right out of the kitchen and straight to the dining table. We know how this pizza is made from a thermodynamic standpoint, and we know why the biology of the ingredients makes it sit lighter in your stomach. But this deep dive isn't just a masterclass in food science.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about why this specific place matters to the people who actually live there. We are looking at a community in Norco that actively values authenticity.
Definitely.
Families and groups are consistently choosing this over the convenience of typical fast pizza. They're creating what our sources describe as a memorable dining experience.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights a profound shift in consumer psychology.
How so?
It is the deep contrast between convenience dining and experiential dining.
Explain that contrast for me, because isn't all takeout essentially convenience dining? You pay money, somebody else cooks, you eat. What changes the psychology?
It comes down to the perceived signal of effort. Think about the cardboard pizza box arriving on a random Tuesday night.
Sure.
It is purely transactional. You are exchanging money to quickly solve a caloric deficit so you can get back to doing whatever else you were doing. The food is completely an afterthought.
Right, it's just fuel, like stopping at a gas station on a road trip.
Perfect analogy. But when a community like Norco chooses a place like Wicked Pizza Pies, they are responding to the friction and the difficulty of the craft.
The friction.
Yeah. Operating a wood-fired oven is not a push-button operation. You have to source the right wood, you have to manage the moisture content, you have to tend the fire for hours before service even starts.
Oh, wow, I didn't even think about the prep.
Oh, it's intense. And the pizzaiolo, the person making the pizza, has to constantly monitor the ambient humidity in the room just to get the dough right.
So what does this all mean? There is no thermostat to just set to 400 degrees and walk away.
No, not at all.
It requires a human being actively wrestling with the element.
Exactly. And human beings are incredibly sensitive to effort. When a local business commits to a culinary experience that requires such high preparation standards and zero shortcuts, it sends a psychological signal to the consumer.
Like, we care about what we're feeding you.
Yes. It tells the community, we aren't just churning out a product for you, we are practicing a craft for you. You are worth the effort.
That's powerful.
It really is. That environment naturally elevates the meal from a simple transaction into a hub for connection. People gather around the fire, literally and metaphorically. They are gathering around a shared appreciation for a standard of quality.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Like I said before, it's the difference between a pit stop and a destination. You are investing your evening in a place that has invested its time into the craft.
Precisely.
But, talking about high standards conceptually is one thing. Actually executing that standard day in and day out on a commercial scale is incredibly difficult.
It's the hardest part of the restaurant business.
Right. And this brings us to the operational reality of how a place like Wicked Pizza Pies maintains this reputation. Because they aren't just doing this for an exclusive dine-in crowd.
No, they do a bit of everything.
Yeah. They are managing this highly volatile artisanal product across takeout, delivery, and even full catering packages for large events.
And that is really where the rubber meets the road. Maintaining quality control from the raw dough all the way through to the final presentation in a delivery box requires an obsessive level of operational consistency.
I can imagine.
And what's truly fascinating is how they prove that consistency to the public.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. We have spent this entire deep dive analyzing a process that is fundamentally ancient.
Wood, fire, stone.
Exactly. We are talking about the thermodynamics of a fire. We are talking about the biology of simple, unadulterated flour and water. It is old world romance.
Classic craftsmanship.
But when you look at how this business connects with the Norco community, and for you listening, their address is 1762 4th Street, Norco, California, 92860.
Right in the heart of things.
Yep, you can call them at 951-374-0065 or visit wickedpizzapiece.com.
Good to know.
But anyway, when you look at their strategy, it is completely aggressively modern. They are deeply embedded in Yelp, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube.
It's a brilliant, if somewhat jarring, juxtaposition.
I mean, I have to ask, isn't it contradictory? You have this soulful, almost sacred way of making food, relying on instinct and fire, and then you're doing, like, a TikTok trend with a slice of pizza.
I get why you'd say that.
Doesn't leveraging algorithms and Yelp reviews inherently kill the authenticity of the old world craft? It
No.
feels like they are mixing oil and water here.
I can entirely see why it feels contradictory on the surface, but if you look deeper at the mechanics of local commerce today, it is actually a perfect match.
Really?
Yeah. What do Yelp, TikTok, and Instagram actually provide for a local business? They provide immediate, unvarnished transparency.
Okay, I'm listening. How does transparency equal authenticity?
Think about the massive, highly processed food chains we discussed earlier. They hide behind focus groups, massive marketing budgets, and chemically engineered consistency.
Sure, they control the narrative.
Right. If a chain pizza is bad, you don't really have a local recourse. It's just a faceless corporation. But a local artisan operating a temperamental wood-fire oven, they are walking a tightrope every single night.
Because every pizza could burn.
Exactly. So by leaning heavily into platforms like Yelp and social media, they are stripping away any corporate shield. They are essentially opening the kitchen door to the entire town and saying, our attention to detail holds up to the light every single time.
I get it now. They aren't using TikTok to fake a personality. They're using it as a modern village square.
That's exactly it.
If you are serving burned, inconsistent pizza in a tight-knit community like Norco, you cannot hide from a Yelp review. The digital accountability is immediate.
Exactly. The source of their marketing is simply the truth of their product. Observing how they leverage these platforms proves that their internal physical attention to detail translates directly into external digital community trust.
It's totally transparent.
Right. The transparency of the simple ingredients matches the transparency of their business model. The community can see the fresh ingredients in the kitchen, they can taste the complex, smoky finish of the fire, and then they can go online to validate that exact shared experience with their neighbors.
It is a complete closed loop of local accountability.
Exactly.
They aren't hiding behind dough conditioners, and they aren't hiding behind slick, faceless advertising. Traditional physical craft meets hyper-modern digital accountability, resulting in an ironclad local staple.
And that consistency is precisely what separates a good meal from a great community fixture.
Man, what a journey. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's look at the massive terrain we've covered today. First, we tore down the idea that heat is just heat.
Not even close.
Nope. We explored the actual thermodynamics of a wood-fired dome, how conduction, convection, and radiant energy work together to shock the dough, flash vaporize the moisture, and create an unmatched textural contrast that a standard oven simply cannot replicate.
We also dismantled the assumption that all pizza has to be heavy.
Yes, that was huge for me.
We looked at the biochemical reality of how rapid cooking allows a kitchen to strip away the artificial dough conditioners, preservatives, and added sugars required by slow-bake supply chain.
The biological tax.
Right. By relying on simple ingredients and intense fire, the result is a naturally digested, lighter physical experience.
And finally, we saw how embracing the friction and difficulty of that ancient craft sends a powerful psychological signal to a tight-knit community. In a world optimized for cheap convenience, choosing to do things the hard, authentic way turns a simple Tuesday night dinner into a destination.
It really does.
And by backing up that ancient craft with the extreme transparency of modern digital platforms, they've built unbreakable trust. For you listening, if you ever find yourself out in Norco, California, you now have the deep context.
You're ready to eat.
You really are. You don't just know where to get a great slice of pizza. You understand the physics, the biology, and the community fabric that makes the locals swear by it.
This raises an important question, though, and it's a thought I want to leave you with today.
Okay, let's hear it.
We spent this entire deep dive exploring how a single local restaurant creates a profoundly better, lighter, and more memorable experience simply by stripping away the heavy processing.
Right.
They remove the artificial chemical additives from the food, and they remove the faceless corporate barrier between the kitchen and the community. It forces you to look inward.
Oh, wow.
What other areas of our daily lives, far beyond just the food on our plates, could be vastly improved by stripping away the artificial? Where else in our routines, our careers, or our relationships could we remove the heavy processing, stop relying on cheap convenience, and get back to a more authentic, high-quality, fundamentally human core?
Wow. From the thermodynamics of a pizza crust to evaluating the heavy processing of our own lives, that is absolutely something to chew on.
Pun intended.
Always. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the next one.